What's happening, everybody? It's K2 from the United Souls crew. We are here doing our rewind for episode 9, Time to Unwind. This is the closeout episode of the first section of the walk, which took us from Venice Beach, California, all the way to Las Vegas. So far, we have gone from the beaches, through the city, through Hollywood and Los Angeles, worked our way up into the snowy mountains and Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear, got stuck in a hailstorm, then came down off the mountainside, went right out into the desert, into 110-degree weather, through the Mojave Desert. We got to check out the Integratron, Giant Rock. We checked out Coachella Festival. Then we got Joshua Tree. And this episode kind of takes us then from Joshua Tree back out through the desert, going through Baker and Barstow and some of those last desert towns as we get our way all the way to Las Vegas. And we're here today with Rocco doing the rewind. How you doing, Rocco? What's going on with you?
Awesome. Another exciting episode. Got a bunch of questions about this one too. I was kind of curious if you had to alter your hiking style or times and stuff, because now you're heading into like serious deserts where you have extremes of temperatures. Did that factor into the way you actually went about walking?
Yeah, definitely. We started to kind of adapt to the heat during the day, and it was much cooler at night. So we started doing a lot more nighttime walking as we got into the desert because, it seemed like, there was this was kind of a part where it went on for, it seemed like days, weeks where there would just be nothing but flat ground. I mean, one of the funny things is that, probably like a week before we got to Vegas, we could pretty much see Vegas. Like we could see the beam coming out of the Luxor pyramid. We could see the lights and stuff. And we were walking for days and it seemed like we weren't getting any closer until finally, after we got to a certain point, then it was like, okay, now it looks like it's kind of getting closer. But for a while there, we could kind of see Vegas in the distance as a tease. And we were just walking for, maybe a good week and it just didn't seem like it was getting any closer.
How did Skhell hold up with these extremes? I know the roads could be super hot for the dog's feet, and did that factor into?
Yeah, that definitely it was something that we were, one of our main concerns on this walk was keeping her protected. Like I said, she was probably the most popular member out of all of us on the walk. She's got her poster up in a bunch of different pet stores, and people were always really excited to help take care of her, make sure she was doing good. That was another big thing where we had our production vehicle. If she ever was tired or, we jumped out of the van, if she wanted to jump back in the van, she was welcome to stay in the van. But usually when we would get ready to start walking, she'd see us start stretching, start getting our packs together. She would be out just jumping, running around in circles. I mean, she's a pack animal, kind of a herding dog, Australian cattle dog. So she would pretty much just kind of be, scoping us, back and forth, just pacing around, going to front to back, making sure we were all together, making sure we were kind of staying off to the side. And we would kind of go back and forth. Whenever we could, we would go on side access roads and stuff that had a little bit more, dirt and grass and stuff like that. It was still probably hot sand and things, but, when we could, we would stay off of the actual highway. But a couple times you'd have to kind of go back and forth. But there would always be these side roads that were along some of the major highways, especially as we were walking towards Vegas. I think that's the 15 that goes pretty much straight to Vegas. That was the longest haul that we had to go pretty much.
I also saw that Dragon was talking about heading back to LA in this episode. Whatever transpired with that?
Yeah, this was the episode that Dragon headed back to LA. But yeah, after episode 4, when Dragon injured himself from when we got chased by those wild dogs, he was pretty much out of commission for the rest of the walk. He didn't do any more walking, and we got to it was a Calico ghost town, still in our maybe another week outside of Vegas, and he just had enough, and he wanted to go back, and he said that he was going to meet back up with us in Las Vegas, but honestly, we actually never heard from him again, so much love and shout out to Dragon wherever you are. We never heard from him again. We know, and honestly, we never really talked about this too much, but Dragon was someone that I had met years before the walk, and I then again hadn't. He just kind of poof disappeared. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and like maybe a week before we were about ready to go on this walk, I just bumped into him again on Hollywood Boulevard. And we were, hey, what's going on? What's, catching up? And I was like, hey, I'm about to go out on this walk journey in about a week. And he was like, oh, I'm down. I want to go. So he had like a week, but, even
That's
less
crazy.
that he was like ready to go on this walk, and yeah, funny enough, like none of us even know what else he goes by other than Dragon. That's the only name we have for Dragon is Dragon, and don't really know much about him and haven't ever seen him again, but hope he's doing well, and it was great to have him on that first part of the journey. Yeah, we never heard from him again after that.
How long were you guys on the road at this point? Like, do you have how many days did it take you to get to Vegas from LA? Was it a month or?
Yeah, it was. It was it took us. Well, like I was saying in the last rewind, it took the night that Tool played at Coachella was April 30th. So that was 30 days on the road when we were at Coachella Festival, and then it took about 2 more weeks to get to Vegas. So it was probably about a month and a half, maybe a little more, because one thing we did in between this episode that there's not really footage of is we stopped at this convention along the way. We stayed there for a few days at this Raelian Convention. And that was like, we kind of got sucked into a vortex. That's a whole other conversation in itself. But I do have footage of Kam and Jordan. They did performances. They had because actually towards the end of the week, it was kind of like this talent show of sorts for the prophet of this group named Rael. This group called the Raelians. It's kind of it's a religion, a cult. It's a cult based on science, a religion based on science. It was just something that we had kind of passed on in the desert, and they were having a world gathering at a hotel, and we were walking by, and it was pretty wild. But Jordan and Kam, they did a performance at their big talent show, and we hung out there for almost a whole week. Doing workshops and listening to this guy talk and meeting people. A lot of the people that followed this movement were molecular biologists, neuroscientists, NASA engineers. It was some of the top minds in the world were all gathering at this conference to meet this prophet that was all, again, based on UFO alien contact and a science-based religion. It's pretty wild, pretty silly as well. I mean, it's something that you kind of got to check out. But we didn't get much footage of being there and going to the workshops. We did get some footage of, like I said, of the fellas singing some songs for them. And we're also joined today by Campaign here to close out episode 9. It's awesome to have you here, Cam. We're taking what would normally be a 4-hour drive to Las Vegas to a month and a half long, over 400-mile walk so far. Cam, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch all of this, man. It's bringing back all the good vibes and the memories.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's one of my favorite clips too. That starts you off when you're just kind of like doing a little smooth sailing out in the desert. You do that little like desert scream, like because you can be as loud as you want out in the desert. I think I was cracking up the first time I saw that footage, and that's kind of what we kick this episode off with. How was that, man? You did a lot of like singing and vocalizing on the trail.
I know, right? I mean, that was the goal, man, but that was just a fun moment. And it was an interesting moment to realize that because you're rarely walking in the desert like that. So you just realizations start happening. And that was when like, yeah, if I was in the streets doing what I'm doing right now, like with people around it, I'd probably look crazy. It's just, you don't get a chance to think about that unless you're out in the desert by yourself.
Yeah, me and Rocco, we were going through a couple segments already. We were talking about walking at night through the desert and stuff. We were talking about, to try to beat the heat. We were talking a little bit about Skhell and how she got herself through the desert. Again, I was telling him about how one of her options was always being able to stay in the van, but pretty much anytime we would get out on the side of the road, she would be out jumping, nipping at the leash, just trying to get ready to go. She was like always down, man, to kind of jump out and be walking, man.
Ultimate shade finder. She knew where the shade was at every moment. She would always walk in the shade, just stay cooler than everybody else. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Scale was cooler than everybody else, period.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Definitely the most popular United Soul. And then we also were talking a little bit about, we had a quick little reflection on Dragon, because this is where we said later's the Dragon. He headed back to LA, wishing him well wherever he is. Do you have any thoughts or reflections on our time with Dragon?
Oh man, nah, Dragon, Dragon turned out to be like a really cool person. Then I didn't know who Dragon was. And after we walked up the mountain, getting chased by dogs, I think that was like his last day of walking.
Yeah,
Uh,
pretty much.
I think he had got injured. Something happened where he was like, "Nah, I'm good," and he's kind of stayed in the van after that. And yeah, I think it just kind of started to get to once we got to the desert, and but he wanted to come back. He wanted to go and get some supplies and come back and stuff. But that just was a hard trip. Like I went back once or twice and came back, and every time it was always hard to leave again and come back to the walk. So I can
Yeah.
understand how it could have been hard for him to do that. But yeah, man, Dragon was a trooper. You know what I mean? He was a trooper for a minute, man. He was out there. He wore boots. He walked every day in really thick boots. Were not walking shoes. And
Yeah, man. He was kind of like, yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember too because I saw in the picture or in the episode, I saw he was like eating the ramen. He was like, "Yo, let me get one last thing of ramen." And then I remember I noticed too he had his hands all duct tape bandaged up because I remember then too when we were at the Integratron. Dude, like branded his hands. Remember, he like put his hands like on the fire. I mean, he was or on the there was like burn barrels that they had at the Integratron, and I think there was like a dragon cut into the side of the burn barrels. But he like put his hand, to into the burn barrel or something like that, and like burnt his hand, and his leg was all messed up. He was I mean, there was like a couple weeks too where he was like a little off in his own world. I think he had a lot of fun at Coachella. I think he had a lot of treats for the rest for to last him a couple weeks, because he was kind of spaced out for pretty much until he left. He was kind of like a little bit out of it.
yeah,
Something like
man, that he was the first to leave the group. Like he started
that.
from the beginning. He was the first to fall off, and that
Yeah.
was we were kind of like it was an interesting time. It was understandable because I think we were literally at like what was that, like it was like a haunted the haunted campsite, a
Yeah, Calico Ghost Town.
ghost town or something like that. It
Yeah.
was hot. It was just like that's like one of the hottest space like in the desert on the way to Vegas. It's like that place and Needles. It's just the heatest the hottest place the most heat.
Yeah, I remember going through. I think it was Baker, where there's like a huge thermometer in the middle of town, like Baker and Barstow. Like those were two other just like classic desert towns. And we stopped by that little alien jerky place that had it was like a little alien UFO spot.
Alien beef jerky.
Yo, this is nasty. And I just I don't know why I want to bring this up, but I can't forget. So Sage and Sage was there.
Well, at the Integratron, yeah.
No, well they kind of were on that. They were on that stretch a little bit. I think they were at that campsite where we met Happy and them. They were there as well.
Right, okay.
But I just remember, needing water, and I got like a cup full of water from like the cooler that had ice in it, so it had like kind of icy water in there.
Oh, jeez.
But it was like that water that everyone had put their hands in to get the drinks and shit. And so, excuse me. And so I had, and the first time I sipped it, it tastes like hands. And I was like, oh, this is handy water. I was like, oh. And oh my God. And Sage, and I was mad at Sage that day because she was like, get some of that water right there. Get that. I just remember being mad, like, damn it, why'd you make me get that water? It's disgusting. And then I was like, no water. I was out there and it was bad. I was like, oh man, I need water right now. Like I had to pour it on myself and shit because I wasn't drinking that. But yeah, man, like that was one. I just remember that stretch, just walking on the 15 after we got to Barstow. That stretch was fun. Like it was fun to do because you've driven it so many times. If you're from LA, like you've driven it, and so like you've seen it, but then at that pace, seeing all these things that you never would have paid attention to, and we were yelling at the people in their cars and stuff. I just remember all of that stuff being like, oh, this is messing with these people. Like, what else are we gonna do?
So you had told me prior to seeing this episode that you had stumbled upon this Raelian convention, and Kevin had explained to me that you guys performed in front of this group of alien prophets, I guess. What was that experience like?
Oh man, that experience was crazy. So Kevin was, trying to tell us about this convention, and it was on the way. And mind you, like, so this is in Jean. Before Jean, I think is Baker. There's nothing, before that. So we had been walking, and there's nothing. And then we finally get to something. So whenever you get to something, that feeling is like, oh gosh, there's that, excitement. There's people there and, familiar with this place, pass by this place all the time going to Vegas. So you always see it, maybe stop here and there. So I've been to this place before. And so we go in. I remember being in the parking lot waiting to go in. Like I just remember we parked our van. We were out in the parking lot trying to figure out what we were gonna do. Everything is just visually is all kind of just coming back in my head. But like, so we go in there, and the guy Rael. His name is Rael. Yeah. And the Ians they just follow him. The Raelians, and it sounds like it has something to do with aliens, but the guy's name is just Rael, and they're his followers. So, he was like he's French, right?
Yeah, he was like a French race car driver, basically.
Yeah. And he was about in his 60s or so, I'd say. But it was just funny. It was funny. So you see these kind of conventions all the time where people come together and they're, they believe in their thing, whatever. So he, I just never forget, he said in one of his speeches, like, that the women he had an accent, okay? He had a thick French accent. So when he said stuff, it was kind of funny, right? He was like, all of the...
He was trying to get the girls the focus.
The focus, yes. But he didn't say focus.
The focus.
Yeah. Said it so many times, too.
He said, and you must focus.
Left right there.
All of the women must focus. But that was kind of the thing, though, which was kind of seemed like it was going around, like he was doing that, like he was being the stereotypical, you know, cult leader that's having sex with all these people. But anyway, you know, he had these epiphany moments, and I thought it was interesting. You know, the stuff he was talking about, the story seemed interesting, and all these stories are interesting. He was picked up by, you know, some aliens, and they told him the ways of the world, and you know, all of this deep knowledge. Apparently, it's happened to other figures and leaders in the past, and all this kind of stuff. And they went through the same experience that he went through. But for me, it was just hella funny. Now, look, my cousin was there. Like I saw Imari, remember?
Right.
Wait, you randomly ran into your cousin?
My cousin was there randomly, and when he saw me, he was shocked because he's like, "Oh, you know that I'm here at this thing. Hey, what's up, man? What are you doing here?" I'm like, "No, what are you doing here?" Like, so
That's great. That's great.
he lived in Vegas, and we actually later up was able to connect with him once we got to Vegas, and he helped us. He does music, and he helped us out, and you know, took us to a couple of spots and stuff like that. But we performed with him actually as well, right? Yeah. So yeah, man, that was definitely an interesting time right there, because we were acting a fool, because Derek was clowning. We were all clowning, like it was just too funny, like you know, especially after the focus line and just the guy, because we went to go sit with him in his quarters or something and say hi and tell him about what we were doing and everything, and just kind of get like a close up, you know, like take on what he's about and everything. And you know, he's just a eclectic, you know, rich guy like like all the rest of them, you know. But it was interesting, very.
But yeah, so you know, the end of the episode right here takes us basically to the Vegas sign, closing out section one. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was just such a great feeling finally getting to Vegas. We knew that we were going to be, you know, hooked up. You had a lot of family and friends there. Jono had family and friends there. So once we got to Vegas, we were like, oh man, we definitely felt home and taken care of. We had hotels we could stay at. We had families, houses we could stay at. So we kind of like really had, you know, we were really excited to get into Vegas.
Do you remember we were walking down when we were getting towards the state line? I don't even think there's a footage of us crossing the state line where the buffalo is and all that stuff. Like after Gene, you know, there's that state line with the big buffalo and the roller coaster and all of that. When we were walking down that hill, you remember there was this big fire. There's a car fire. A car exploded.
Yeah, I do. I did have like a quick, like 1 second clip of that. I should yeah, I'll have to put that in right here. Bop.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember we saw that from afar, and then when we walked up on it, we passed it, and like then we saw the car explode and all of this stuff. Like it was just like, you know, and the traffic was backed up way down the road, and we just kept walking, and people were like, "What's going on?" And we were the only ones that could see, like, there's a car on fire down there. Like, yeah, just.
All right, so we're just going to do a little bit of a quick deep dive and show a little bit about where we were walking. Again, you can kind of see, here's the Big Bear area. We kind of came down and went over to Giant Rock, the Integratron, then went down this way. But we came back up through Giant Rock, and then this is the 247, this Old Woman Road that we were, me and Cam were walking on for a while when we were talking. And this 247 then took us all the way out basically to Barstow. And yeah, once we got into Barstow, you know, then we're pretty much on the 15 the rest of the way out. And that just goes straight across the desert. And that's what works our way as we got to, let's see. Yeah, here's this Calico ghost town. This is where we took a nice little break. That's where Dragon went home then from there. Then we're back on the 15. Pretty much, yeah, for the rest of the way. And yeah, we did a lot of just finding stuff on the side of the road. We found a couple CDs, people yelling at, we were yelling at people along the way. And then here was a cool spot that we stopped off and did some hiking in this Afton Canyon. That's where you can see us, where there was the train that was coming down. Basically, I think here's the train right here, and we'll walk down and explored some caves over on the other side of the train tracks, and then kind of but it was almost like a Grand Canyon itself, like a mini Grand Canyon, Afton Canyon. It was pretty cool. So we stopped by there, and then just kind of continued along this 15 until you get out to Baker. And again, this is just vast, long amounts of deserts. And like I said, you could pretty much, at a certain point, you could kind of start seeing Vegas. And then here's Jean, Nevada, like right after you cross the state line, pretty much here. Here's the state line, and then we got to Jean, and this is where we did this Raelian convention. As you can see, where the convention was, there's just nothing here anymore, so it is completely gone.
Looks like an alien ship landed there. Left.
Yeah, the whole hotel just took off. Nevada landing, but yeah, that's all that's left is an old sign. But yeah, this is where we stayed when we did that, and then we're from this point we're pretty close to get to Vegas, and at this point I think you could pretty much see the lights then every day when you're getting closer and closer.
That's such a crazy feeling when you're 2-3 days away from something and you're still walking, and it just looks like it's never getting there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that stretch of road when we were walking, when me and Derek were walking, and there was that big sand cloud and stuff like that. That was after we had passed Jean, so that was like the final stretch right before getting to Vegas.
We pretty much, I'd say, threw about everything you could possibly throw at us for this first month and a half of walking to battle survival. How did you feel pretty confident in your abilities to survive after this first month and a half?
I definitely did. Yeah, it made the rest of the walk, feel doable, a lot more doable after making it to Vegas. Definitely, yeah, because that desert and just the walking every day, we got into that habit, and I feel like, I was ready for that after that.
Yeah, because it was, because again, in this first section, it was not only desert, but it was hailstorms and like snow and, all kinds of just, aches and pains. I mean, we really put ourselves and our vehicle and all of our equipment pretty much through a serious, a whirlwind of, just trials and tribulations. So I think it was a blessing to survive and make it to Vegas. It felt so good.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother chapter. I'm excited for the new chapter to come too, because the saga continues, man. We got into some real cool stuff once we did get to Vegas.
Definitely. Well, Kam, thank you so much for jumping on this morning and doing this little rewind. Like I said, I think I'm pretty sure we got some more United Souls on deck as we start getting into this next section. So we're going to be working on our timing with everything, and hopefully get a little shout out here, a little bit more from Jordan, hear from Jono, and see what else we can talk about and get into on these rewind episodes.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, my brother.
All right, bro. All right, man. We'll catch up with you later then.
All right,
bro. Thanks,
man.
See you. So thanks for joining us, checking out our final episode of Section 1, Time to Unwind, Episode 9. It's been an incredible journey so far. We are just getting started, just building up the momentum, now getting ready to move into Episode 10, Section 2. This section is going to be emotion. So we've gone from survival, and now we're moving into Section Orange, into emotion. So I hope you guys will all join us. The new episode drops. Actually, it's going to be dropping tomorrow morning. So you'll be able to see episode 10 tomorrow and get all started and kind of keep the flow going. Make sure you like and subscribe, share these videos, spread the word. We're trying to really share this inspirational journey and inspire as many people as we can. So contact us if you have any questions about our walk. We'll definitely answer them in some of these rewinds. Feel free to comment on these videos. Remind everybody to keep on walking, take one step at a time, putting one foot in front of the other. You're going to get there in the end. Thanks so much for joining us on the walk. We hope that these videos are inspiring you as much as it continues to inspire us. Peace and love. We'll see you next week.